Welcome, everyone, to the first episode of the Star Trek Lower Decks Fake Nerds Watch series. This is a series I'm going to be doing myself with my co-host today is Michael Karls from the Downright Nerdy podcast. How are you, sir?
Doing very well. Thank you for having me.
I think the last time you and I did something was for another Star Trek show, which was Star Trek Picard.
Yes. Yep. Had a ton of fun with you back then, too. Looking forward to doing this with Lower Decks as well.
Yeah, I hope my goal is, so we have, obviously, if you're watching this or you don't know, we have a Fake Nerds Watch series on our channel, and Fake Nerds Watch is a series where we go through every episode of a TV show, one after the other. And we try to keep it a weekly schedule. I want to see if we can do 2 at a time. So I want to try and do all the Star Trek shows with yourself. I know Cookie is interested from Just a Little Podcast.
Yep. I
want to try and do all the Star Trek shows that are coming out in the next or however many decades we're doing this for.
Okay.
And that way there's some more variety. So that because I don't know if you know this, but there is a Marvel show coming out practically every week.
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, I think all of 2021, there's maybe 4 weeks out of the year where there's nothing new coming from Marvel.
Yeah, and so that's what our Fake Nerds Watch series is going to become. Mostly us doing the Marvel shows, and so I want to try and do something a little bit different. Okay. I love Star Trek, so here we are with Star Trek Lower Decks. First, though, I want to get your impressions of the first season.
So the first season, as we talked about a little bit backstage, I had binge watched this over the past week because I don't know what caused me to stop watching it, but I only watched the first 2 episodes when they were coming out last year, and I have no idea why I stopped, because as I started rewatching them, I completely fell in love with it. I thought it was a ton of fun. It reminded me because of the way that each episode is set up, where there may be a background story that spans through the entire season. Each episode is essentially its own a standalone episode, which is very reminiscent to TNG, TOS, and Voyager. Maybe not so much DS9, but the previous 3 I just said.
Yeah.
And I had a ton of fun. It was a different view because the main characters, well, I guess the core main characters are parts of the Lower Deck. They're not the bridge crew. Mm-hmm. And it was going through it. They didn't overly vomit the nostalgia. You know, if anything, there were maybe like bits and pieces, which were pretty much just for us, like you and me, you know?
Right.
And I thought it was fine. I thought it was great. I thought I had a ton of fun the entire time. I was kind of bummed it was only 20 or not even 20 episodes, like 10 episodes or something like that.
I believe the first season was 10 episodes, and they're only 20 minutes, so that's easy to blow through. I really liked the first season. I really like Lower Decks. It's my favorite of the 3 shows that are currently airing: Picard, Discovery, and Lower Decks.
I would agree.
I like Discovery well enough, and we talked about Picard, and but Lower Decks I think was probably the strongest. It just felt the most Star Trek.
Yep, I couldn't agree more. I mean, I almost feel like the downfall with the other 2 are they're trying to adhere to a more, I guess, a different type of audience than what Star Trek I think was meant to be kind of portrayed to. But I mean, they're doing what they can. You know, I mean, there are times where I do enjoy Picard. There are times where I don't, and that's the same with Discovery.
Yeah.
Granted, Picard's only just finished its first season. It's still in its infancy. While Discovery, I feel like, has gotten progressively better with each season. So I'm hoping that it continues that.
I didn't love season 3.
No? Okay.
No.
Fair enough.
But we'll talk about season 4 when it comes.
Yeah.
We don't need to turn this into a Discovery one.
Yeah, I know, right?
I think one of the things that separates Lower Decks from Picard and Discovery is that the creator of the show, Mike McMahon? Yes, I think that's his name. Yep. He apparently used to shop at my comic book store.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, small world.
Well, he comes from Rick and Morty. He's a huge Star Trek fan. He loves Star Trek.
You definitely see the Rick and Morty influence on this show.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
It's definitely Rick and Morty light in a lot of places. But I think one of the things that helps is I don't care what Kurtzman says. I don't think there is anyone on the writing staff of any of those shows who is as big of a fan who loves Star Trek as much as Mike McMahon. He clearly puts a lot of love into Lower Decks, and it's not just a parody of Star Trek. It's not just a comedy Star Trek show. It is a Star Trek show that is paving new ground while also being a comedy and being a Star Trek show, and I think it walks the line the best of all the other shows.
It definitely has the most Star Trek type of stories that you see. I mean, the only other show that would be I could compare it to would be the Orville. Not Star Trek, but I mean the most Star Trek-esque, and that's mainly because, shockingly enough, Seth MacFarlane is a huge Star Trek TNG fan.
He was in Enterprise.
And he was in Enterprise, right? Yeah, that cameo appearance. I think season 3.
Yeah, I believe it was season 3. I think it was during the Xindi War.
Mm-hmm. Love the Xindi. Sorry,
Me
we're gonna
too.
get off. You're gonna have to keep me on track, buddy, because I end up going on these little.
That's okay. That's okay. It wouldn't be a Fake Nerd podcast family podcast if it didn't have a bunch of tangents.
Very true.
Right. So let's just get into the first episode. So now we're going to talk about Lower Decks season 2, episode 1, Strange Energies.
Oh, I'm sorry. We are going through season 2. I apologize. All right, cool.
Yeah. Now, this is the first episode of season 2 now.
Strange Energies.
I think this is a really solid opening episode. And one of the things I really like about it is that it's a TOS plot.
Yeah, it absolutely is. And actually, almost with that aside, one of my favorite things is that one of the main characters, Boimler, we don't really see, and he does not interact with his former crew.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's going to because the first season mainly centered around the whole second contact, and then the relationship between the captain and Mariner. Thank you.
Yeah.
Right. With everybody else kind of being side characters, and we're kind of like learning like everything about them. And now everybody's kind of it didn't take very long for them to be kind of in the flow. So here with Strange Energies, you kind of it kind of picks up right where it left off. Like
mm-hmm.
there's when I binge watched 1 and then went right into season 2, there was no skip step.
Yeah.
Right? It was nice.
Yeah, I think one of the things that helps this show, well, they made the first 2 seasons at the same time, and I think that helps a lot.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
Because animation takes a long time, so they were already renewed for 2 seasons when they first started. I think one of the cool things about this episode is that we don't see Boimler, like you said, because we get to see Mariner shine without Boimler.
Yeah,
and I think Mariner is a far more interesting character.
Oh, 100%. I agree. Yeah.
Yeah, I like Mariner a lot. She's my favorite character.
I was very happy because in the beginning, you didn't really know who was going to be the main character between the two. And I think it was sometime when you found out, I think when it was outed that she was at the end of season 1, when she was the captain's daughter, I think that's when you kind of know, like, hey, this entire thing has been about her.
Right. And I do think there's Boimler's a fun character, but Boimler is really only fun when he's bouncing off of someone else, like Mariner, like when he's being dragged along on a mission with Mariner. And like, he is our point of view character. He's the character who grows because Mariner is such a badass Starfleet officer. But I just think Mariner struggles with her mother as the captain. I think it kind of grounds the show in a more realistic place where a lot of people can relate to what Mariner is going through.
Well, also, I mean, I don't think it's any accident that the family and mother-daughter dynamic is real easy comedies to write. I think
that's also true. Yeah.
And especially it's more, like you said, it's more relatable because a lot of people, they have that, whether it's mother-daughter, father-son, mother-son, father-daughter, they have that parent child dynamic and all that. You see it in these two's relationship, especially when they try to work together. And
yeah.
succeed and fail.
And they hate working together, which is a fun. Like Mariner's just like, hey, I'm gonna go do this thing. I don't feel like you're respecting me enough, and it's like, fine, go do whatever you want. And she starts a whole thing. One of the
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Okay, so one thing that I kind of thought about was their personalities, the mom and Mariner. Do you remember the episode of TNG when Q shows Picard what his life would be like if he took all the safe steps?
Yeah.
All that. I almost feel like Mariner's like a young Picard, kind of reckless and just doing what she wants to do. But the captain's like, no, what are you doing? You're making all the same mistakes that I did, kind of thing. But in my mind, when I'm watching this show, it reminds me so much of that episode that Picard has to go through all these trials, or like has to succeed, fail, and take all these risks in order to get to be the type of captain that he is now.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. I didn't really catch that parallel. So one of the things that I kind of lament about Star Trek's Next Generation era, the DS9, the Voyager, the even Enterprise, is that they went away from the ridiculous sci-fi elements of the 60s. And I get it, sci-fi has evolved. It's no longer you go out into space and a giant green hand grabs you, or you meet the Greek gods and they can turn into big, like that's not science
really
fiction
a thing
anymore. Yeah. Now we like robots and alternate futures and things like that. But what I like about Lower Decks is that they're not afraid to do an original series plot line.
Right.
And they do the Gary Mitchell plot of becoming a god and creating this with strange energies and becoming whatever. And they even reference Gary Mitchell a lot in this episode. And I think that one of the things that I think Lower Decks does really well is walk the line of creating a place for Star Trek fans to go to. Like, hey, we talk about Gary Mitchell. Kirk killed him with a boulder. Like, that's all stuff. We get that. We know that.
Yep.
But my girlfriend, who's never seen the original series, can also find a lot of enjoyment in this episode. Because it's not overt. That's
the advantage of being a cartoon, I think, as well. Right? You're able to show and emote more things when it comes to animation. It's funny. Obviously this episode is a throwback to the TOS series, but do you remember? I'm going back to TNG because do you remember when Q offers Riker his powers? Right.
Oh yeah.
And Riker tries to resist, but is subsequently uses his powers to save the city or whatever that was about to be crushed.
Wesley,
right.
He turns Wesley into a man.
Was that that episode?
He changes Wesley into an adult.
That's right. Yeah. But just the with great power comes great responsibility type of thing. Like, obviously, it's fun watching these characters go through it. Obviously, they're not the Enterprise, right? This entire crew is flawed to some extent.
They have no business dealing with this.
No, that's why they are the second contact type of ship, right? So
they even the mom, the captain, I forget her name at this point. But she's talking to her husband,
Captain Freeman.
She's talking to her husband, who's an admiral, and the admiral's like, if you impress, you can get onto a capital ship. Like she can make the jump from a second tier ship that makes second contacts to the people that make the first contacts, like the Titan that we see.
Right. Oh, I got it. We got to talk briefly. What did you think about Riker and Troy's return last season?
I liked it.
I loved it. I thought it was for a hot. Even Q too. John Delancey came too for a couple.
Just for a brief moment, yeah.
But man, I thought I could only imagine how much fun Jonathan Frakes had doing that, because he was around for 2 episodes. Just a quick spot on the next one.
Yeah, but I like that. I think Riker's going to be a bigger role in the season, but I appreciate that they leaned into the cartoon aspect. Like, it's a cartoon version of Riker.
Oh,
like, it's a Riker who's like way more into jazz than he ever was.
Yeah.
He's like, this is Riker turned up to 11. And that works for the cartoon aspect, but you can still see the Riker that came from Star Trek Nemesis, that came from Next Generation, within that Riker. And I think that's really cool that we know that should we ever see a legacy character, they may be more ridiculous, but they're still going to be recognizable as that character.
Right. Yeah. It was. I couldn't say that even better. So I guess going back to what you call it, strange energies. So the whole premise is that they're dispatched on a mission where what you call it, the mom or Captain Freeman and Mariner, they have this kind of relationship where the Mariner kind of does what she wants, and Captain Freeman just kind of allows it, even though she doesn't want her to do some things.
Yeah.
And she's kind of a humanitarian. She loves to clean up stuff. She likes things tidy. So she takes this giant like water hose and starts spraying down one of the dirty buildings and exposes like some sphere on top of a building, which I don't know what happens. Like some kind of lightning hits it, and then it goes down to what's his name? The first officer. Oh God, what's his name?
Ransom.
Ransom. Yeah.
Yeah. Commander Ransom.
Yeah. He gets these crazy powers.
Just like Gary Mitchell at the end of the galaxy with the lightning. One of my favorite facts about Star Trek is that there's this weird energy barrier around the galaxy that they can't get through.
Well, you know what that is?
No.
Oh, so that was created by the what's the thing that Kirk went into, the green sphere, the oh gosh,
the Guardian of the
Guardian. Yeah, that was created by the Guardian to contain the Q.
Oh, is that from a book?
It is. Yeah, I'm
cool.
Totally nerding out right now. It was contained to contain the Q so that they can't expand into the entire universe.
Wow, that's really cool. I didn't know that they explained that in a book.
Yeah, it's super brief. Was it a book or maybe it was a comic? I'm more certain it's a book now because I got a ton of Star Trek books back here.
I always love it when they can bring back the Guardian. My favorite episode of Discovery season 3 was when the Guardian showed up. I was like, oh my God, they did it.
Yeah, so cool. I'm really happy that they did that too, because Discovery was starting to kind of get there to me.
Yeah, me too. But anyway, we digress again.
Yeah,
I think that there's a lot to be in mind when in this format specifically, that you can bring back elements of Star Trek that have just kind of been away for so long. Because Star Trek, there is room in Star Trek for the ridiculous Abraham Lincolns to come out into space, the giant green hands. There's room in Star Trek for that. And there's also room for the contemplative Next Generation stuff, or the DS9 stuff, or I am happy that Lower Decks is willing to embrace the more ridiculous side of the Star Trek mythos that we haven't seen since the 60s. And it created a lot of really funny comedy with Ransom becoming this godlike creature that turns everything into his face, and he's constantly making a gym out of everything.
Yeah, that was great. I mean, like I said, I kind of just go back to the fact that this is an animated series. They're able to kind of do all these things, and I think McMahon has just been given free reign as to what he wants to do, because I don't think you can get away with a lot of this stuff in any live action show that's made by Kurtzman. So it's unfortunate, but at least we're getting this. And to be honest, I'm 100% happy with it too.
Me too.
I'm okay.
What did you think about the B plot?
The B plot of
Tendi and Rutherford. Tendi thinks that Rutherford has a synthetic brain.
I think the whole time, because so early in season 1, they went on one date, right?
Yeah.
And I thought that they're going to kind of grow that, but then we kind of see him going on all kinds of dates, and it's obvious his love for the ship and his love for science is greater than any love that he could have with anybody else. Mm-hmm. But Tendi, I love that she was just trying to like get her friend back. But I mean, in my mind, I think that she's in love with him, even though she doesn't think that. She may not know that. I don't know. Um,
it is for me the weakest part of the episode.
yeah,
Mostly because I don't really like Rutherford that much. I struggle with Rutherford a
I don't
lot.
mind him.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he's just a B or C character that's just there, right?
Hmm.
I like his little implants. I remember the early in last season where he's trying to, or when he goes on a date with Tendi, she says something to the effect of, well, maybe you can do some, I'd like to see this with you, but you work. Well, like, oh, now he goes and tries like all these different jobs within the ship just to try to make this one thing work with Tendi, right? And I would have actually loved to see him on security. I thought he was going to take over the security detail when the head security officer died. The
Yeah.
Doran.
Yeah.
I was bummed about that. I kind of liked him,
I did
but
too.
that another throwback to TNG with their security officer dying. But yeah, because since he has that little implant, I mean, he can just go, activate instant kill and start going all crazy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like Rutherford well enough. He for me is the weakest link of the crew though. The lower
Okay.
decks crew specifically. Of the four, I like Tendi more than him. So like by proxy, because she spends most of her plot lines with him, I enjoy them, but I'm always more interested in the A plots. So like I was really interested in what happening with Mariner and Ransom.
Okay.
And it's kind of fun that we see like the Ransom's floating head in the background of Tendi and Rutherford's plotline. I thought that was funny, but
Yeah.
there was just for me whenever we cut back to Tendi and Rutherford, I was like, can we go back to what's going on with Mariner?
I gotta say, I think over the past first season, and we didn't see too much of her here, but I thought the weakest character was the cat doctor.
Oh yeah,
I couldn't stand her. I don't know why. I was just like, oh God, stop! I almost want to fast forward to the next thing, but whatever.
and the first season, I agree with you, but I liked her in this episode.
I thought she was fine.
Well, when she's just like, what? When she's just like, well, how did Kirk deal with this? He dropped the boulder on him, and she shows the up with a forklift with the boulder on it. I thought that was pretty funny. Yeah, I think the humor works in this season a lot. I talk about like on the podcast. I've talked about these Rick and Morty clones. There's a lot of them now. There's Solar Opposites. There's this, and I think that this is probably the closest that they've gone to a Rick and Morty like level.
Yeah.
Nothing can top Rick and Morty because Rick and Morty is pretty great, but this is the one that where you're like, it's not that you can't get to Rick and Morty. It's that you're still a Star Trek show and you have a level of quality control that you have to hit. And so I feel like this is just the strongest of the Rick and Morty clones.
I gotta say though, the storytelling here is just so superior to any other stuff. I mean, other than TNG or Orville, I mean, this has some of the best storytelling especially within a 20-minute time frame that I think we're going to be getting for a while.
Yeah, I do too. The stories are really tight and they're energetic. They move, and you never feel at the end of the episode that you missed anything.
No, exactly. Yeah, it's very complete. I like it. Who are the writers too?
I don't know who the writing staff is actually.
Let's see.
Real quickly, though, Orville season 3 finished filming.
Did it really?
Yeah.
Oh, good. When does it air again?
I think they're hoping for the end of this year, but it's looking like next year.
Good.
That they haven't been renewed for a 4th season yet, and I'm kind of like, come on, guys, you can do this.
I think they. I mean, it's a pretty popular show.
Well, it was touch and go with their move to Hulu.
Yeah, but Hulu's now partly owned by Disney, and I think that if it makes them money, they're gonna invest in it.
Yeah, I mean they were initially looking at, if I remember correctly, they were going to do season 3. They were going to get canceled for season 3 or go to Hulu.
Okay.
And so they decided to go to Hulu instead. So hopefully, I like the Orville a lot. I really want to rewatch
Mike McMahon is one of the writers, one of the head writers.
So he wrote. Did he write this episode?
Yeah. I just have a whole list of what was written for the whole series. Let me see if I could find it just for this. Let's see, cast, starring, guest starring.
It's nice that you got IMDb open over there.
Actually, I got Memory Alpha.
Oh, Memory Alpha, cool.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Memory Alpha.
Yeah, I used to go on Memory Alpha a lot, and then I would try to do Memory Beta, and it just get overwhelmed and be like, I can't do this. This is too much.
It is such a rabbit hole. I mean, like before you know it, it's 3 hours later, and you're late for school or something. You know?
I don't think I have to worry about being late for school, but yeah, I get what you mean.
Gosh, well, I would like 2 years ago, I was going back I went back to school online, and that's what I would actually get sucked into a bunch of stuff, and I'm like, I gotta get off this. I need to finish a couple papers. All right, I can't find it for some weird reason. I don't know why.
Well, whoever wrote this episode, you did a great job.
It's right in front of me, Mike McMahon.
Mike McMahon. Okay. Well, it was a great episode. I love it.
Yes.
I'm really excited for the season. I think that's all I gotta say about this episode. What about you?
What days does this release?
Thursday. Every Thursday.
Got it. Okay. So right now there's only been one. So.
Right. I personally believe that that Paramount Plus now wants Thursdays to just have a Star Trek show. Every Thursday.
Okay. So are we going to be getting this once this ends? Is Discovery picking up right after that, or Picard? I mean,
I strongly suspect Discovery is
Discovery.
Next.
I think it is Discovery because when Picard, because I remember Picard came out right after Discovery season 2 or 3.
Yeah. So I think what's going to happen next, I'm not sure. I'm not 100% sure. Last year they were able to do this, but with COVID, I think they had to postpone a lot. So I don't know, but I strongly suspect that once this show is over, Lower Decks is going to go either a week break or right into Discovery season 4, and then Picard season 2 will be after that. And I don't know where Prodigy fits in that time frame.
I don't even think they've even begun filming yet, have they?
Well, Prodigy is the other animated show.
Yeah, but they haven't begun anything on that, have they?
Haven't you seen the trailer?
No, I haven't. So I guess I'll do that.
The trailer's out, man. It looks pretty good.
Okay, nice. Well, I'm excited.
This is the so Prodigy is the not the adult animated show like Lower Decks. It's more for younger audiences.
Okay.
It's meant to be a family show. They at Comic-Con at home they released the first teaser trailer.
Oh, good.
And I like the animation a lot. It's by a couple of guys who did the Troll Hunter show on Netflix, which I really like. So I'm excited.
Good.
And then Strange New Worlds stopped filming just now.
Yeah. Real quick, what was your favorite episode of the first season?
What was the episode where Rutherford kept blacking out, and every time he would open his eyes, he was in a different, crazier scenario?
That was like towards the end of probably like the 6th or 7th episode, but that was pretty good.
That was my favorite. As I really like that framing, that like plot progression of just blackout. All of a sudden, you're in the weirdest thing you've ever seen in your life. You're like, what's happening? I think that's a lot of fun.
I honestly think like my favorite episode was the pilot episode because you see a lot of times that some shows they kind of ease their way into a season and they try to like build their stuff. All of a sudden, like right at the gate, we get zombies in space in Star Trek.
Oh yeah, that's right.
It was just so bizarre. I'm like, wow, they just got big cojones on them. They're just gonna just go for it. And I liked it. It was fine.
Yeah, I think that episode proved that they were willing to just go as far out there as they want.
Yep, that and the first episode of this season with the big head.
Yeah, I really like the cojones on this show.
They have some big ones, man, and it's making Star Trek fans around the world, I'm sure, very happy.
I think the one that if any Star Trek show could unify the fractured Star Trek fandom right now, I think it is Lower Decks.
Right. Yep. And hopefully it does it. I'm hoping.
Yeah, the Star Trek fandom is kind of a pain in the ass right now. It's
not as bad as Star Wars, I don't think. But
we'll see. I don't necessarily know. There isn't consistent. I think the Star Wars fandom is like looking forward to the upcoming shows, whereas the Star Trek, like as a whole,
I see what you mean.
The Star Trek fandom is just kind of like these shows aren't Star Trek, and you're just like, shut up.
I mean, really, when you talk about the shows, I think the last consensus or the last show that was probably the most Star Trek amongst fans was probably Voyager.
Voyager was hated. I just found
It
this
was,
out.
but when they compare it to everything that's coming out now,
No, that's true. Yeah, nowadays they look
when you
back on
think
it more
about it, like
fondly.
they look back on it, they're like, okay, so Voyager was the last of its kind, and then Enterprise was just you take away trumpets from the beginning opening thing, and they get all crazy, right?
Mm,
But I personally consider Enterprise that last kind of series before the new stuff.
yeah.
Um,
There's eras to Star Trek. There's the TOS era,
yeah,
which it's just the one show. There's the Berman era, which is the next gen to Enterprise, and now we're in the Kurtzman era.
yeah.
So we're now in the third era of Star Trek. And if Kurtzman wants to do 7 Star Trek shows at one time, I guess go for it, man. Whatever.
Well, the good thing about that is he probably won't have too much control over, since it's so many. He may not have as much control over everything, so hopefully he leans on people like Mike McMahon or others that have so much that hopefully are great fans of the show too.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to Strange New Worlds. I think that one should be a lot of fun.
No, okay.
Yeah, I don't know if I have much more to say about this.
Same
Yeah, I
here.
think I'm good.
I'm looking
All right,
forward
man.
to episode 2.
Yeah,
Episode 2 is called. Hold on, I got that.
Memory Alpha never fails.
I know, right? As long as you air. Keishan, his eyes open.
Oh, then we're going to introduce the new security chief.
Ah, there we go.
Because they in the trailer they showed us that the new security chief is one. I don't know the species name, but it's the one from that episode where Picard stranded on the planet with the guy that can only talk in metaphor.
Yep.
Yeah.
Keishan, his eyes open, and they actually they featured that species in season 1.
Oh, did they? I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. I can't remember which ones exactly, but they're the ones. They're the ones with the big ships, and they're like, how are they taking over? They're the ship that destroyed the sister ship of the Cerritos.
Oh, I thought those were the Packlids.
Were they the Packlids? Maybe,
because it's the ones who like the games, who did like the war games in Next Gen.
But they talked like the other. Maybe not. You're most likely right.
Because I know that the Packlids were the big bads of the first season, because Riker's dealing with the Packlids now.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah. Next episode I think it's mostly Riker.
Next episode is.
Yeah, I think Riker and
bet
Boimler is the A plot, and then the B plot is the.
I bet you we're going to see a lot of that flip flop between Boimler and
Mariner.
Yeah. Like every other episode, until they converge again and Boimler rejoins the crew. I bet you.
Yeah, I think so too. They get your money's worth out of Jonathan Frakes.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I think all in all, a solid first episode. I'm really excited for the rest of the season. Hey, happy to have Star Trek on the air, man.
Me too.
Just at the end of the day.
Yeah.
All right. Let's call it there. It's a short Fake Nerds Watch episode because it's a short Star Trek episode.
Yeah.
All right. So, Mike, why don't you plug some things?
I don't have much to plug. I'm Mike from the Downright Nerdy podcast. I co-host a weekly show called Downright Annoyed with Movies with another buddy of mine, Jackson from Bored and Annoyed podcast. Just starting to get back up on my Downright Nerdy podcast show. The past couple of episodes I've done, I've reviewed The Suicide Squad. I've reviewed The Green Knight. And I think we're eventually, me and Riley, my co-host / fiance, we're going to record a show on Free Guy, which we just saw, starring Ryan Reynolds, which, spoiler alert, I loved it. Very, very good. One of my top 5 movies of the year.
Mine, top 10 for me so far.
There you go.
Yeah, loved it. Yeah. Okay, cool. Thank you so much for doing this. Of course, this is part of the Fake Nerd family of podcasts. This is the Fake Nerds Watch series. We will keep doing more episodes. Mike might not be on all of them, but you'll be on a lot of them, hopefully.
Yep.
You can find other shows on this channel. If you like this video and you subscribe to this channel, you can check out such shows as Basement Arcade, which is a new episode up now where Ryan and Sparks do Phasmophobia. It's a new horror game that they had a lot of fun doing. There's Animation Station, which we just put up a new episode where we talked about War for Cybertron, Kingdom, which is the final season of the War for Cybertron trilogy on Netflix. Check out our thoughts on that. There's Basement Arcade Pause Menu. There's a new episode coming soon. I'll let Ben talk about that when that's out. There's Fake Nerd Book Club. We're talking about getting that show back on the air, so stay tuned for that. Of course, there's also our audio show, Conversation, which is a show that I do where I talk to podcasters about fandom and how their podcasts influence their fandom. Mike, I really want you on that show.
Cool.
That's a lot of fun. I'm really enjoying that one. There's a new episode where I talk to the YouTube channel, the gentleman who runs the YouTube channel, Up From the Depths. We talk about kaiju fandom, and that was a lot of fun. And of course, you can check out all of our shows on the Fake Nerd family, the Fake Nerd Podcast family podcast. The Fake Nerd Podcast goes live every Sunday, where we do our live recordings, where we talk about movies and news and TV shows, and we have a book club, and it's a lot of fun. Last week, we just recorded an episode where we talked about the Suicide Squad, and this coming week, we're probably talking about Free Guy. Should Ben and Ryan watch it? We don't know.
Get them to.
We don't know if we will, but perhaps. Other than that, just stay tuned for that.
Cool.
All right, you can find us on Fake Nerd Podcast on all the social medias, fakenerdpodcast.com. There's our website, FakeNerdGuys@gmail.com if you'd like to get in touch with us. I'm at BT McClure on Instagram and Twitter. Mike, where can I find you?
At Downright Nerd Podcast on Instagram and on YouTube's. I don't do I have a Twitter, but I never follow it, so just do it on Instagram.
All right.
Also, you could also find me on Whatnot, the app, where actually next Monday I'm going to be hosting my first comic book auction. So check it out.
What's Whatnot?
August 23rd. Whatnot is a collectible auction app where you can where people sell comic books, Pokemon cards, baseball cards, any kind of collectible kind of thing, and comic books that are kind of new right now to the app.
Mm-hmm.
But a ton of people have been started doing it. It's kind of addicting. So make sure that your wallet's full when you're on that. So you can definitely lose your life in there real quick. So just be careful, but be responsible. And I'll be showing off. Actually, got a whole bunch of comic books right over there that are going to be going up on the auction block.
Very cool.
Check it out.
All right, guys. Until next time, stay fake nerds.